So we're going to start out by creating a new project. I've already decided where I'm going to save it. I'm going to give it a project name of Brickbusters, nice and simple, and it's going to be a 2D game. Important always to remember to click 2D to make sure the game is set up in 2D by default. So we're going to go ahead and create this project and open it up in Unity. Now once the project is opened up, we're going to start out by doing some of the same things we did in the previous project and set up some basic defaults for us to work with within our game. So to start out with, we're going to create a bunch of folders here in our assets directory, our project folder. So we're going to create a new folder for art. We're going to create a folder for audio. We're going to create a folder for materials, one for prefabs, one for scenes, and finally one for scripts. Nice and simple. One of the first things we want to do is import our art assets into the game. So I'm going to go into our art folder, and then in the resources that are included with the link with the downloads for this series, we're going to drag in these 3 art assets. We're not going to touch the audio folder for now. We're going to import that later, but for now we're going to import these 3 different images we have. So I'm going to drop them into the world here. Okay, so we've got the 3 of them there now. One other thing we want to do is, much like we did with the previous game, we want to use this in a 16:9 ratio because it's the most common ratio used by most people. Because we used it in the previous file, it kind of defaults to that here, but we want to make sure that we select it in our game view so that we know we're working with that view. Make sure we can see everything in our scene view here. Another thing we want to do is again set the background color to be a nice black again. So I'm going to go to my camera, go to the background, make that black, just like that. One thing we want to do now, which is not what we did at the start of the previous project, but for this one we want to make a few walls around the place like we did before. Now we've gone through how to do them, so very quickly I'm just going to drag in the same white sprite that we used last time. I'm going to pop it down here. I'm going to give it a box collider 2D as we did before, and then I'm just going to stretch it out like this. I'm actually going to center the positions of it so it's right in the middle, and I'm just going to stretch it out to the edges there like that, and then I'm going to move it up a tiny bit. And what we're actually going to do is leave a bit of space here on top for later on when we add various different bits of text like the score and how many lives our player has and stuff like that. So we want to make sure we leave enough on the top. That's probably a little bit too low, but we can adjust that later when we actually go to add in the text. But for now we just want to leave a little bit of a gap at the top. We also want to put some walls at the side, so I'm going to rename this one to be a wall first. Then I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to pull it over to around about here. I'm going to put the scale back to 1 on the x-axis, and then on the y-axis we're going to drag it up like this. I might just move down a little bit lower, drag it up some more, and then move it down to there. So what we want to do is make sure that the edges of these 2 boxes line up. So if I zoom in here, now what we could do is just manually try and move it, but you can see as soon as we click off the center axis we kind of lose that. We could switch to this control and kind of use this and click and drag it around and just try to line it up by eye. But what we can do that's much more handy and much more useful is if we switch back to our move tool, and then in our scene view here, if we hold down, or if we actually click on wall here first, and if we go to our scene view and if we hold down the V button, it'll lock to the corners of the object. So if we hold V and then click and drag, what it'll actually do then is lock onto the corners of other objects within the world. So what we can do is make it lock onto the very top up here then, and let go, and now you can see the wall gets pushed perfectly into place in the corner just the way we want it to. So we're going to duplicate this wall again to make another one on the opposite side. What we should be able to do is just make this as a positive X value, and it should line up perfectly because the top wall is kind of equally wide either side, so you can see there's no kind of weird shapes going around there either. So there you go. We got our nice simple wall set up. The final thing we want to do is save this scene, so we know that we have a scene that we can permanently be saving, and we don't have to worry about losing all our progress that we've made. So I'm going to go to File, Save Scene, go into our save scene, or into our scenes folder, and we'll just call this one Level 1. Nice and simple, and save that. Okay, so now we've got the basics of our project set up. Let's start doing some new things.